song for Nathan. He's tired of hearing it. He doesn't want to sing it anymore. Go to somebody else do the karaoke version.
On the contrary, Walter, I'll happily bang this drum all day long.
I mean, sing it out loud. Loud and proud.
Anyway, so I have to constantly say it to the people we're debating with because it won't sink in no matter how many times I say it. So I've got no issue writing it all again. So, okay, where do we start? So when you are taking an observation of anything, you have to take into account the fact that objects in the distance get smaller as they get further away. This is called perspective or angular size reduction. So things in the distance get smaller. Now, for the first example, you've got you, the observer, and a target in the distance. And that is the only 2 points that need to be taken into consideration. And that gives you the same point of view, first-person view, as you get when you open your eyes in the morning and look out at the world at absolutely anything. You have to take into account perspective. Objects in the distance will get smaller the further away they become. So, that being said, it's a very useful thing to steal if you are trying to convince the world that they live on a sphere and boats go over a curve, because objects do converge in the distance. So bearing in mind that we are performing a viewing operation when we click a camera and take a picture, there's then a necessity to remove this aspect of reality, which is perspective, from the curve calculations. And the way they do this is essentially giving you a third point to view the observation taking place, as opposed to viewing from the observer's point of view. So if you go 90 degrees adjacent to the observation, you can then keep all of the things that you are viewing equidistant from the observer and maintain their size. So by maintaining the size of the object in the distance, you can ignore the perspective or ignore the fact that it's getting smaller the further away it is from the observer. So it's this third point of view, what we've been calling the orthographic view, that manages to maintain the size of a mountain, which may be, say, 1,000 feet for the sake of argument. It will still be 1,000 feet even if you're viewing it from 30 miles away, where in reality, when you look down the line of Ranty's example with matchsticks, if you've got one matchstick lined up in front of another, they will look smaller and smaller and smaller as they get further and further away from you. So on the debates, it was using the kind of retarded logic of Father Ted when he's trying to explain to Dougal that the toy cows in his hand, which are about 1 inch high, are small, whereas the cows out of the window are far away. But obviously, relatively speaking, they look the same size.
I said give me a heads up!
You're supposed to be on that button ready.
I just smashed them cows in right now. They're there. Close.
But this is it. They've stolen perspective. So all the Globers have done is just a magic trick. And we've lifted the curtain, pulled back the curtain on this magic trick and showed how the magic trick's done. They've stolen perspective, the fact that things get smaller as you get further away from them, and removed that very aspect from the calculations and replaced it with curvature. And the way they trick people into not noticing is they put this third point of view. Not you as the observer, which would match what you're presenting when you're calculating these things out with Metabunk or whoever else's fallacious calculation. You know, you're actually using a photograph, and that photograph does, at the moment you press the shutter, capture the angular size of everything relative to the observation position. And obviously, things in the distance are smaller than if you were right next to them holding a tape measure. Yes, a mountain's 1,000 foot when you're standing right next to it, but it could be teeny tiny when it's 30 miles away. But the calculation will still have it at 1,000 feet. And then you've got plenty of wiggle room to introduce a curve where actually you are viewing or observing a convergence point, which we were all taught in school. So that's all they've done. They've stolen perspective and called it curvature. And the way you can use this in a useful way, so if you were to join the debate, Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, plug. If you were to join Flat Earth debate and have this conversation with a globe head, the simple get out is to say, your calculation does not account for the angular size reduction at distance. Or to put it more succinctly, the mathematics do not account for perspective. And that is an assertion you can make as opposed to a question. So not does your calculation account for perspective, your calculation does not account for perspective. And that's a big problem because every single person who has eyes to see opens their eyes and observes perspective. It's a very real fact of life that they ignore in their calculation, and they must ignore it because that's where they've got the wiggle room to convince you that things that are going into the convergence point are actually going over a curve because the maths say they do, with a presuppositional value of r.
That's
there you go.
That's awesome, mate.
Beautiful, so yes.
There's the soundboard. I think that wiggle room, Nathan, it might be a point for us maybe to think about playing the video from Taboo Conspiracy, which is
the Freebird.
Maybe before we do that, it might be worth Anthony mentioning, because you guys have, as we alluded to a little earlier, have kind of trailblazed this week, jumped on it, and I think you alluded to it, Nathan. Ranty's had kind of triggered onto it. I've mentioned it in passing and stuff, and we on the show when Taboo Conspiracy brought this video out, kind of aired it and mentioned it as a ball buster, for want of a better phrase.
It did come from his Taboo's video, and I was looking at the video, and actually no, what happened was I saw it from Al Kay's video of Elsa Gray, I think it was called, and he was doing an observation of a 1,000-foot mountain, but he was at 38 miles, and I knew from my previous experience that at 38 miles, something at 1,000 feet, that's pretty much going to be behind the curve. So all I really looked at was Al Kay's video of Elsa Craig and found out what height it was, found out how far away it was, and it's 1,100 feet at 38 miles. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, there's no way that should be seen when I'm comparing it to my own previous experiences. And I actually asked Adam, did he have any views on this? Because my view was it should be completely behind the curve, but the refractive hidden value on Metabunk kind of makes it a little bit kind of almost, you can bring back the tippy tops of it kind of thing. And obviously we all know that the minute they bring back the tippy tops of it, that's classed as enough, and therefore it's refraction, and therefore it's explained, and therefore there's nothing to worry about. But Adam said, have you seen Taboo Conspiracy's most recent video, or a video from the last couple of months? And I said no, and he sent me the link, and I watched it. And I've got to be honest, Taboo Conspiracy needs massive kudos, because he'd obviously spotted this 2 months prior. He'd done a video with all the maths in it, and he'd done all the calculations, all the workings out, and he concluded that basically the conclusion that they have is that when you apply the curve calculations, the curve calculations seem to match the perspective calculations for objects in the distance getting smaller as they go further away. And basically, Taboo Conspiracy said, well, if we apply the curve calcs, does it support a sphere Earth? And the answer is yes. However, when we apply perspective to a flat plane, that also matches what we see. But both of them can't be right, not on the distances involved in the mountain that he's looking at. One of them must be wrong. So he basically then said we need to apply the perspective to the ball Earth maths. And when you do that, it changes everything, because once you apply the hidden to the perspective reduction, then it becomes obvious what world we live on. So what he concluded was that if you apply the curve calcs the way that they're told, the way that they're presented by the ballers, then it falls into the ballpark figure for what you should be looking at. But obviously, when everybody puts in the height for the target that you're looking at, whatever mountain or whatever tall building it is that you're looking at, everybody puts in the height of the building as if it's touching your nose, and that's the only time that building is at that height. Because as it gets like 5, 10, 20, 30 miles away, it appears to drop size, it appears to shrink, get smaller, and obviously when it appears to get smaller, that's what we should be applying the curve calc to, the drop value or the hidden value. We shouldn't be doing this to the object right in front of your face, because obviously if we do that, then the distance that we're observing the object at should be put to 0, shouldn't be put to anything more than 0, because it's the only time it's at full height.
Well, I'll just add a little summary, because at the end of, I know you're going to play the Taboo Conspiracy video in a moment, so there's a summary that people are, or more of a choice actually, that you're faced with at the end of the Taboo Conspiracy video, because there's two models that are potentially being played out. if you want to look at it in that way. One model accounts for the Earth being flat and the simple fact that objects in the distance get smaller, i.e. there's an angular size change. Now, that's the only formula applied, and it works out with what we see. So you've got, number one, flat plane and the obvious nature of perspective. Number two, you've got the ignorance of perspective. So this is the globe model. The complete ignorance of perspective, something that everybody implicitly knows is a thing, and a presupposition of an R value. So that's your choice. You've got the obvious nature of perspective and a flat plane, or a presuppositional value of R and total ignorance of perspective. So that's your choice at the end of the taboo conspiracy.
Nathan normally starts off with the disclaimer that we are allowing them to present a presuppositional argument, and based on that presuppositional argument, we'll entertain it. But at any point, we can chop their head off and remind them that it is a presuppositional argument about the 7.6R. I mean, obviously, everybody knows there is no radius, right?